Hi, I'm Mindy Cohn, and this is a throwback with TV Guide magazine.
So do you remember being on the cover?
I remember the cover shoot, and I remember being on the cover. It was so major. I mean, this was like more important than an Emmy nom. This was like, we made the cover of TV Guide. I think we're doing okay, kids. I remember the shoot. I remember our wardrobe being picked and us having a say about it. We were so thrilled that it wasn't the Eastland uniform, that we got civilian clothes. That was a big deal for us. Yeah, we were really kind of astounded. To this day, I don't understand it. I asked Charlotte, why did you pick me?
So sort of famously, you did an audition.
Correct.
What was that like? Just sort of...
It was and still is so surreal and serendipitous. Norman Lear, his underling Alan Horn, who went on to, run a couple studios like, Warner Brothers and Walt Disney. And Charlotte came to the school I was attending, which was a college prep all-girls school called, isn't this interesting, Westlake. I wonder where they came up with Eastland. To try and talk to some students and authenticate scripts. And by the end of that meeting, where I attended with my friends Dara Perkins and Andrea Nagin, and we were asked questions, Norman came up to me and said, Charlotte has fallen madly in love with you. We want to write a part for you in our show, and we're going to call her Natalie.
Right now, I'm trying to get down a few of my private inner adult feelings while they're still playing on my soul.
That was Charlotte Ray's real-life best friend in high school's name. How do you feel about that? And I went, oh, that's great. Had no idea what he was talking about. I had just entered 9th grade, totally consumed with, getting through another year of school. Once on the set, I would ask this of Charlotte very frequently, like, what made you? It's one thing to like someone, it's one thing to have an adorable conversation, but you've literally changed my life. What possessed you? And she always just said, I knew and Norman knew and then we didn't know, but why not? And there wasn't a character like Natalie, and we realized that was really missing. I mean, to this day, I don't understand, right? And sometimes, not to, rub a Buddha and light a candle, but things just happen very serendipitously and for a reason, and I'm definitely, my career's one of them. I'd really like a boyfriend. How sad or how kismet that I'm still really saying this statement out loud as about to turn 58. That's hysterical. I wanted one then, I want one now. I always want a boyfriend. I am boy crazy. That has never left me. And I had many. It's not like I didn't have any and haven't had any. But I just love being in love and the newness of a boyfriend. And I think I still do. This is my actual childhood bedroom that had obviously been redone. I'm sitting in a lavender rocker that actually my mom rocked me in as a baby. It used to be yellow. We painted it lavender. It's got the Eastland flag, and I was one of those, and still am, the staff photographer. But back then I collected photos of all my friends and had them autograph them, and I hung them up in my room by my desk. So apparently that still hasn't left me. I like having mementos. This was the room I lived in from the time I was 7 until I was 17.
Do you remember getting that photo taken?
I don't even remember having a Snoopy, to be quite honest with you. But I remember the room, the wallpaper, my chair, 100%.
Oh, Mindy. Oh, Natalie. Showed a gaggle of 9 and 10-year-olds coming across the star in the Universal Studios corridor. We're extras, explains one moppet, holding out a slip of paper for her to autograph. Mindy, towering over this brood, signs patiently. To them, it's obvious. She's sort of the grand dame of the sitcom. Do you remember all the kids around?
I don't. What I do remember is it was such a thrilling place to work. We shared a rehearsal hall space and sound stages with all the Norman Lear shows and a couple of other ones, like Married with Children and Silver Spoons and Who's the Boss, things that weren't Norman Lear shows, but also the One Day at a Time and the Jeffersons. And so we were always around a lot of people, which I think in this industry, especially television, you can get very isolated. We were never isolated. We were never alone. And then being at Universal, the backlot where they were shooting Back to the Future and all these movies, Spielberg's offices were there, Amblin Entertainment was there. So it was such a fun place to work. And we were always surrounded by a lot of people, and I'm so glad to hear that I was friendly. That makes me happy.
On the set, large chunks of leisure time are consumed by hugging, lap-sitting, and Sony Walkman listening.
Yep.
On taping days, there is much walking about in pink bathrobe and fuzzy slippers, and many trips are made to her dressing room, a photographic shrine, and another sex symbol, young movie star Matt Dillon.
Mm-hmm.
Remember sort of hanging up photos and setting up the dressing room?
I do. I like a lot of people around me, and if they can't be around me, I like pictures of them around me, whether it's people that I admire and love and have crushes on or friends. And yes, it actually is so darling to hear that quote because we had such a wonderful familial feeling, and I think that translated on the show. We really enjoyed being with each other. I mean, some of my favorite memories are either on the set or when we went on location in Paris. Nancy and I would share a Walkman, and each would have one earphone and listening to whether it was Flock of Seagulls or David Bowie, or we had a very eclectic taste, we still do. And so that warms my heart, as Nancy is still one of my best friends on the planet. It really harkens back to the fact that we worked hard, but we enjoyed ourselves very much.
There's also a whole section about how much you cared about school too, and how you were still, you didn't do the on-set tutor, you
Correct.
continued to go to school. Why was that important to you?
It was important to me to go to school and also important to my mother and my father. I went to a college prep school. It's very hard to get in and stay there, and so I would work and then go home to 4 hours of homework a night. School was very important to me, and at this point I didn't know that I was going to stay an actor. I thought I was going to be pre-med and go to med school, so, how do I not get in the books? And I enjoyed school. I was always one of those kids that really liked to learn. I still do. And my school, Westlake, was very conducive to enjoying learning. And I hope that I brought that on the set. I mean, I feel good the fact that I think I influenced Kim Fields to go to college. I don't think that would have happened without me. And that I ended up going to college and getting a master's. And yeah, I think education is one of those, especially back then in the 80s, it was a luxury. It was considered a true luxury to go. And yeah, I kind of still feel that way. Maybe not so much at the college level anymore, unfortunately.
How do you look back on this time?
I mean, the 10 years of our lives that we spent together on this show, it is a decade. I mean, obviously, as it hits further and further in the rear view, it becomes a little less precious and important. But it's a long time. It's longer than college, it's longer than high school, it's longer than an Army stint. I mean, we always say that. It really was a decade of our lives, and for Nancy and I, who are the same age, ages 13 to 21, it's a very significant time in a young lady's life to be doing anything with anybody, let alone this thing with this group of people. And so we have incredibly fond memories, but it also, to be quite frank with you, is dated, right? It ended in '89. There were very different times. I mean, oh my gosh, I feel my gray hair growing as I say this out loud, but it was different times in America, in the world, and so to look back on it fondly is one thing, but it is a bit nostalgia. I mean, it is not really, I don't think we would have the same experience today, obviously. Well, thank you, TV Guide Magazine, for that trip down memory lane. Very nostalgic and very enjoyable. And please stream now on Apple TV+, the new show, PALM ROYALE.